on rare occasions, my wife and I have conversations which are kind of theological, I guess, or related to religion. And she knows I'm an atheist, and she isn't an atheist. She's has some kind of spirituality, I guess. But one of the things that comes out of those conversations, and has recently actually, since my wife's mum died, is to do with the role of religion in bringing comfort. You know, she says, I think quite rightly, that one of the roles that religion plays historically and now for people who have got a faith is that it provides some kind of comfort for them in times of difficulty, like in times of grief. So if a close relative dies, if you have a kind of, I'm not even sure if you need to have a concrete belief in an afterlife or a concrete belief in the soul. Maybe you do, but I don't know if that's absolutely necessary. But if you have some kind of religiosity or some kind of spirituality which just kind of mobilizes those metaphors subconsciously, to do with permanence and to do with, I don't know, something like that. I can't even go there really. I guess if you have something going on for you like that, I can kind of understand why it would be comforting. But what's one thing she asks, well, she didn't, yeah, she kind of asked me, or that attributes to me, I guess, is that because I don't have a religion, because I don't have any belief in God, that I'm kind of depriving myself of those comforts and necessarily approaching life as in a kind of nihilistic, crudely materialistic way, I suppose. And I usually say, yes, I am. I think we're worm food. But it's not entirely representative of my position, really. I think there are completely materialist accounts which kind of, I'm not sure if comfort's the right word, but they offer ways of looking at the world, at least to do to me, which kind of substitutes for those more established mythological narratives. So, for example, well, two examples if I can get to the second one. First example is to do with what I've been talking about the last few days in these videos, which is to do with the idea of a centre, which is, in the way that I've been talking about it, is the most common metaphor that we use to describe the absolute centre of our being. It features in terms like core self. If we were to try to find the soul in the body, we would look internally, we would kind of point towards ourselves. When we want to indicate our most intimate, personal, closely held, defining features, we tend to gesture towards the centre of our bodies. So I think in all of that sense, there is this sense of a centre, which, as I've said in previous videos, I think is linked to a phenomenological experience of being at the centre of our experience. When I look around, there is the world, arrayed as a disc around me, and here I am, located as the axis of that disc. But I think it's also linked to the other thing I've been talking about, coming out of Metzinger and Damasio and others, to do with this constant and persistent sense of self emerging from the maintenance and monitoring processes of the body. So we all have that centre, whether we call it or not, whether we call it that or not. We're all capable of deriving that sense of a self and locating that within the kind of centre of our experience, even though it's purely metaphorical and purely somatosensory, like everything else actually, but there you go. But what's interesting for me from that, in terms of what I'm talking about, in terms of kind of deriving not a metaphysics, but deriving a kind of worldview out of it, if you like, is that clearly I'm not standing at the centre of the world. I'm really not, and no one else is. We all inhabit the centre of our own experience. But as Pascal said, and I think it's a really complex and problematic quotation, but it's interesting in many ways. He was talking about, this is Blaise Pascal writing a few hundred years ago, kind of responding to Newton. He said that the universe is a sphere the centre of which is everywhere and the periphery of which is nowhere. There's a train coming, I have to be quiet for a minute. Great. So Blaise Pascal says that the universe is a sphere, the centre of which is everywhere and the periphery of which is nowhere, which I'm kind of reinterpreting phenomenologically to mean that we are all constantly at the centre of our own being, and everywhere we stand is also at the centre of the universe. So whilst I'm standing at the centre of my universe, you're standing at the centre of yours, my dogs are standing at the centre of theirs. And we're all kind of experience the same basic activation pattern. At least if we're alive, we are. We're all kind of phenomenologically located in this rather odd way. So on that level, at the level of information, not location, but information which suggests location, at that level, we are all at the centre, we're all at one centre, and we're all kind of one, really. I know that sounds dreadfully Plotinus and dreadfully, I don't know, but that's kind of how I'm seeing that. That this guy on the canal path up ahead of me is running up there, look, in the rain, is at the centre of his phenomenal experience. He's seeing the canal in front of him and the road behind him, and he's seeing these things around him. He probably just saw me a minute ago. But right at the heart of that experience, there is a self-identity, which is, in informational terms, exactly the same as mine. It's creating a location for his sense of being, in exactly the same way as mine is creating a location for my sense of being. So we are kind of uniquely together in that, all of us. So I think I was going to talk about time as well, actually, but I'll just leave it there for that one, I think. So, although that's not religious, it's highly speculative, I grant you that. That's the kind of idea which kind of leads me to think, comfort's the wrong word, it kind of gives me a kind of sense of comfort will have to do. It gives me a kind of comfort. It gives me a reason to think that to be interested, really, which I think is grounded on a materialism which isn't a crude materialism, which is grounded in sensory motor activities of the body, which is grounded in phenomenological understandings of what it is to be alive and awake, really.